Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. For all of you who are here for the first time, I want to say also welcome. Welcome to our little family. What I want to do today is I want to do something which is going to be my first ever, thing to do. I've never done this before, so hopefully it's going to go okay. Fingers crossed. So let me tell you what I'm trying to do. I'm really trying to take a material that I have not graded before, right? So something that I don't know really what it is. I also want to, this material was shot on an iPhone. Believe it or not, yes, I'm going to use iPhone. And the reason why I'll do it is because, many of you say to me that it's great, when you kind of have a well-shot material, but what when it's material that's not well shot? Well, kind of, I have to say this material is really well shot, right? Even though they only used an iPhone, they shot it really well. And it's a project by Michael Cioni, and and he shot like around NAB time, a movie where he was just really testing what can happen if you do proper lighting and proper kind of things with an iPhone, what you can get. And then also what we did is we basically developed a custom color science for iPhone. We had another commercial that was shooting on an iPhone, and then for them we just built it, and then they kind of all came together, this Michael's projects came together. But why I really love this and why I'm really doing this is to show you the power of kind of modern, let's call it post-processing. And it's fantastic if you have like a money for great lenses, great cameras, great lighting. DP who's been shooting 25 plus years, they shoot everything for it. It's great, but we know that that's not the reality. And really where this technology comes in is when you have material that's not superior, that's not amazing, and how we can elevate an image of an iPhone to a level where it's really, I hope, you will agree with me, it's going to be very hard to distinguish between something that's shot on a really good camera, really good lenses, and finished in a really top post-production company. And what we will do, even though it's going to be just, as I said, an iPhone footage. So this is really my plan. And again, I'm going to do the whole grade. This is a new thing. I'm enjoying it. Previously, all my streams were a little bit like, let me show you a tip. And then I would spend 20 minutes just showing you one clip and what I do with that clip. But now, since kind of AI really allows me to accelerate that, I can really grade the whole piece with you. I'm going to grade everything. I'm going to grade the whole timeline with secondaries, with grain, with the whole film emulation and everything in the same amount of time. And I think it's a kind of testament to the fact that we can now actually work better and faster and can be more efficient, since even my tutorials can accomplish much more in a given time. I'll try to limit this always to 1 hour. So with all the talking and Q&As, I'm going to actually manage to actually grade the whole piece. All right. So without further ado, let's start. So this is the timeline that I have. So basically, it's actually really beautifully shot. They have like some sort of haze in there, right? I want to show you actually what it looks like just with basically, so this element here, you see, is offline, right? So this is the offline, okay? And kind of, yeah, they use like quite a strong warm light. So I think there was a little bit white balancing going on there, right? So you can see like what we have. And you can tell, even though it's beautifully shot, right? It kind of does look a little bit like, an iPhone, right? Everything's kind of a little bit in focus and so on. So, so it is, has like this very strong video feel, I would say, right? So, so let me kind of, start. So this time I'm combining Colourlab and Filmlab. And so what I do, basically, I go here into my effects library, and then in effects library, I click on favorites. And I favor put into favorites all my Filmlab plugins and my Colourlab plugins. So you see they have been a little bit rearranged now with the new installer. Also the CL is gone in the name. And they've been bumped up to version 3.1. So when I do this with favorites, then I can basically have all these plugins that I use all the time available to me, so I can quickly, just without scrolling and finding them, just get them very quickly. All right, so the way how I start is I'm going to start with the IDT, and that's my inode. So I will be working in JPlog 2 today. Basically, this is my IDT. And my input, it's going to be iPhone 15 because this was shot on an iPhone 15. And this is a custom build IDT for iPhone 15. So we basically measured, we shot iPhone on several exposures, we measured them, and we've calculated what's really happening. Because, you know, this whole Apple log, it's wishful thinking. That's not really what happens. Somebody came up with a log encoding, but camera is not behaving like that at all. So, I mean, this is, we see this like, you know, with DJI cameras, with all of them. Kind of somebody developed a log encoding, but the camera doesn't record like that at all. Like it's just something completely different. Anyway, so, you know, iPhone's not different, right? Anyway, so I leave this IDT here for the moment. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go straight to timeline. And I just want to kind of set some sort of, you know, like a, you know, base grade. What I'll do is I'm going to click an O node here. And this O node, I'm going to work today in SDR. And then I have several options here. And because I'm going for, like, a client said to me, yeah, make it look like, you know, very much kind of what we shot. Don't change it too much, right? But I want to make it feel like a more filmic, more expensive. This was kind of the brief, right? So I basically, you know, I could say, give me like a, you know, the output of a ARRI C4, which is also nice. Or I can do this Josh Pine 7525, and I'm going to use that. And the reason I'm going to use that is because this is magical. Like it has this little kind of filmic kind of, like a film print kind of feel, but it's not film print, right? It has some kind of Josh Pine magic inside, right? It's very hard, you know, and what I love about, you know, all kind of work from Josh Pines is that, you know, he doesn't really overtake the look. He allows you as colorist still to express yourself. So like, you know, like he doesn't lock you into something. He gives you a beautiful profile, right? But you have so much more freedom to express and build your look underneath, in this case, because it's my ODT. So really, like, you know, this is magic of his work, that he's just not imposing his looks on top of you. He's just giving you a tool that can help you with that. And 7525 is really interesting profile. I love it. Okay, but what I'm also going to do straight away, because, you know, I know we're going for filmic feel, I'm going to go and add serial before, and in this serial before, I'm going to use PrintLab. So the PrintLab, as you know, is basically 128 point film print emulation, right? I mean, it's serious. And also works in this super wide dynamic range of JPlog 2. So, you know, I'm just going to basically apply it. And you see, like, it's so subtle. I like, in a way, like, it doesn't really, like, again, just, you know, give me this kind of, oh, I'm film emulating, you know, kind of look. No, it just gives me this kind of feel, you know. And you know what's really interesting, you know, when we actually do actual film print test and we get the stuff back, we're always so surprised how actually subtle sometimes films can look, right? You know, what we kind of maybe sometimes have in our mind as a look of the film is not really what film usually really looks like. So just to understand, like, you know, it's really interesting that whole concept, you know, of our perception, what we think it should look and what it really looks like, right? Anyway, so now I'm kind of set up. I have a little bit of a kind of, you know, scenario here. So now I'm going to start building my node tree. So my node tree now is going to start with my manual CDL. So this is where I will usually be, you know, working on my whole balancing. Then I'm going to put here my AI node. And here I'm just going to go and put Colourlab. And so Colourlab, but I'm going to make sure that Colourlab works in JPlog 2 because, you know, that's my working color space. Then I'm going to here put a trim node. This node I always use to basically create any continuation or anything that comes out of Colourlab. So what I do is with CDL, I prepare signal for Colourlab. You know, sometimes I don't need Colourlab to adjust my exposure. I know how to adjust exposure, for example, but I want it to help me just maybe with color. So what I would do, I would just basically work a little bit on offset here, use Colourlab to do the match for color, and then basically if necessary, apply a little trim. So that's kind of, you combine, those two. Like sometimes you don't need them, but I'm just saying like this is kind of the strategy. You can like, adjust the image before you match it and adjust it post match it, right? And then I'm going to go here and put Look Designer. Why I'm putting Look Designer here? Okay, the reason why I'm putting Look Designer here is because I want my camera to feel more analog, right? But I want to feel more analog kind of, at the core, right? So certainly my print is doing its job to give me like a wonderful kind of, that's where my look lives, right? And it's so simple. I just basically give 2398 in a very well-crafted ODT by Josh Pines. But what I'm basically saying here is like, but my input really is a little bit like, is electric, right? And so what I do is I basically go here into post-processing, right? And in post-processing, I go and say FPE, and that stands for film print emulation. And what it really does with it legalizes the input of your signal to the level to what actually would be a gamut of a film, right? So basically, film has a gamut, has a maximum, kind of, amount of it's not very much kind of measurable in the same way like you can measure it on a display, but it does exist, right? And like if I was ever to basically, the reason why we put this in, by the way, is sometimes you want to print back to film. And if you want to print back to film, you want to know that the colors you're going to output for printing to film are really going to be reproduced. So, but I use it in the opposite way. I use it as a way to kind of legalize my colors to the film level. And you see what it does. It's just kind of really lovely. Like, just kind of look at how skin suddenly becomes a little bit more like, yeah, this is more like what you would say, like, oh yeah, the skin on film doesn't have that radiance, it has and this is why everybody loves at the moment those density tools, film density tools. And I what I don't like about film density tools is just that they kind of give me colors singularly, and in film everything happens together. Like, you never have a moment in film where you can just adjust red color. The moment you move a red dial, all other dials have to move. This is the nature of the film. Like everything works coherently. Everything's part of a one, right? So you can't. So these tools are really a little bit more kind of, they're non-intuitive for me, because I change a red color, let's say on the density, and all the other colors stay the same, and then somehow I lose that balance, right? Anyway, that's another story. So and then what I'm also going to do to give me this kind of more kind of analog source, I will go and say, give me my negative stock, and I will use 5219 version 3500T. I mean, you can't be more like a, car. And this is, if I was to go and say, let's shoot on film, that's the only stock probably I would get at the moment, right? So basically that now gives me like even more, like it brings me more into that kind of feel. And then not to be completely stock kind of a simulation, I want to have something that, has a little bit of my own personal taste, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with my subtractive a little bit, and I'm just going to add a little bit more kind of cyan here, and maybe a touch more yellow. No, not yellow, maybe negative like this. Magenta and more like this. So what I do is I create this kind of dissonance in these three channels. And that has an effect that corrects, the issue that generally all digital sensors have, which basically that they sample only a single kind of, they don't overlap a lot. So that's the problem, like a CMOS sensor says red, green, and blue, right? And they're very much separate from one another. And in film, you have cyan, magenta, yellow sit on top of each other, and they really overlap a little bit, right? And that overlap is nice. So when I actually just tweak a little bit subtractive, I start generating this little overlapping effect. I activate this emulation, right? And this emulation then helps me a little bit. So it's not so much also about the look. It's about generally changing the character of the source, right? So basically, I got that, so let me see just how is this looking? Yeah. And you see, like, I'm super. So this was like, you see how the difference is, like, look, before my look designer and after, before and after. Love it. Love it. This is exactly what doctor prescribed. Just please, just make it not jump at me. I'm shot with an iPhone that has to have all the colors. No, I'm shot with a film camera that actually is more, you know. So I'll put Look Designer here. All right, so next thing I'm gonna go, I'll leave this node for curves. I might be using curves, you know, I will do that. I'm gonna put another serial node and I'm gonna put like a 3 nodes for my qualifiers, just in case I need qualifiers, not sure if I need them. And then I'm gonna go and put 3 nodes for my windows, which I will certainly do. I always need windows. I love my windows. And then here, I'm gonna go and put basically another, let's say 2 nodes. That should be enough for the beginning for the trimming, for like a basically review, you know, customer comes in and says, hey, Dado, it's too dark, too bright, and I can just change the whole scene here. So these are my windows. And then maybe let me just all the way, straight away, put a little vignette because, you know, I love vignettes. And, you know, we're going to just put one here. Soften it a little. And then basically invert it. And let me see what I'm doing. Maybe a little bit bigger. Excellent. And then what I'll do is I'm just going to bring down a little bit just on a highlight. I don't want everything. I just want a little highlight just to bring down, right? So that would be my vignette. Here, I'm going to put a little soft window, but I won't make any changes now. I just want it there because I know I'm going to need that one. And you know, because all of this scene has got this top light, you see, has like a light coming from here, right? What I'll do is I'm just going to go and put a little grad on the top. And one thing I'm missing in this scene, just already by looking at it, I can tell you, is that I have, you know, the light is just very warm overall. There isn't a lot of like color contrast, you know. So I will do that. So what I'll do is I'll basically, I'm gonna just basically maybe make just a little bit teal on that top grad. So you see, instead of just darkening it, right, I have just applied a little teal there. And let me just make it a little bit bigger so you guys can see, right? So basically, look, so you see what I'm doing is I'm just cooling down that light a little because, you know, I now get better color contrast, right? Because now I have a little bit cooler color here, warmer color here. So you see these lights are simulating the warm tones, right? And then this one here is keeping, and that color contrast is beautiful. Like we love color contrast. We want color contrast, of course. We want always color contrast. Okay, so that would be basically my kind of basic node structure. I don't think I need to complicate more right now. The next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my timeline output. So here we have ODT, right, as we said. And here we have a print film emulation. So this is my my Kodak 2383 at 128 points. And then I'm gonna go and say add serial before. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna add here is gonna be lens. And I do lens before I do anything else. And then, but before I can do all of this, I will go to timeline, output blanking, and I put it to 239 because, you know, like I will be now applying lenses, zooms, and stuff like this, so I don't want these edges of an image that's baked in, that black and white, to affect it. All right, so the first thing I definitely want with the lens, I want my MTF to come down. So, you know, this is problem with any of these kind of lenses, they're too sharp. So by applying like this MTF, what I do basically is I'm just taking, you see, the edge off. You see how it, like, you know, the lens is kind of just, you know, like it takes that edge off. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and make it warm. So I'm going to apply a little tint. Let me see actually what other ones are doing. Like maybe if I try cyan. Ooh, maybe cyan is better because, you know, like it cools down and this warm light still come through. No, that's what I'll do. Maybe not 100%, right? And I leave lens distortion on this kind of vintage 24 millimeter because it's probably what kind of, you know, 24 millimeter, maybe they use something a little bigger, but you know, it's kind of roughly what it is. I'm not far from there. And basically, and I'll do a little like a optical vignette. Optical vignette is not the same as the vignette I put earlier. Optical vignette has got this kind of really strong edges, like it really happens on the perimeter of your image, like that. But this is one thing that I recently was asked by one of my clients. I was working with a cinematographer earlier, showing him what wonderful tool we have. And then he said to me, can you just do me one favor, please? Can you just bring everything back in the middle? And I thought like, oh my God, what a great idea. How come I never actually thought about it? So what I did is this, I made a little window on my lens and I inverted that window. So basically I inverted it, right? So what I do now basically is I have this, lens effect on everything, right? But the center, maybe I can make it a little smaller as well, right? So that way his focus is still sharp, spot on. But you see, I'm not really like I'm transitioning then from that very sharp center of the lens where there is no effect, there is no MTF falling off, because everything kind of loses a little bit edge, loses a little bit sharpness. And funny, I know this is so hard over the Zoom, but once you start doing it by yourself on a computer, you'll see that that kind of difference between a very, in focus part of an image and everything else kind of really helps elevate the effect, right? So, so I'm going to do that. So next thing then I'm going to do is I'm going to make a parallel serial and then another serial and parallel. You see me always do this, that by the way, I have a connecting node in between. It's just a habit I have that I like my parallel nodes to have a common input node that I can then sometimes use to adjust the input to both of them. Happens that sometimes you feel like, oh, I want to adjust both parallel nodes at the same time, and I don't want to do this with this lens, right? So it's with this lens node, right? I don't that node is just doing lens, so I want to leave that. Okay, and this is the real advantage of this type of film emulation that you have. Filmlab AI is completely different than anything else out there because it takes film emulation elements and separates them. And when you separate them, we can put them in parallel and we can apply an effect at the same time. And this is the major difference to what happens when light hits the film and when we digitally emulate with a plugin. Every plugin out there has a problem that it goes like, okay, here is color, here is grain, here is this, and one processing comes after another. And what happens, one processing affects another, right? So I have a color, then color sits on top of grain, grain then sits on top of halation, whatever, right? And then they affect one another, right? Because my grain output then sits on top of halation. But on film, doesn't work like that. It all happens instantly. You get color, halation, grain at the same time, and they don't affect one another. And that seemed to you like, really, is this important? It is so important. The reason why this application is called Filmlab AI is because we use AI to analyze the image in a level that we were never able to analyze before. I can feed a 4K image to like a neural processor and tell me exactly what happens with every pixel. And I get it visualized, right? There is no like a waveform monitor or anything that can really do this for you, right? You can't really, I mean, it's impossible, right? But not just it, I can say, give me analysis over a range of frames. So it says like, frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, frame 4. This is what changed between those frames. And that's really where we were able to see what happens with real film, right? And then when we were building the plugin, we were able to understand, oh, but this is not working. This is why it's not working. And then we were able to feed our plugin, algorithms into the same AI model and be able to get the results and then tweak our plugin until we were not getting really something accurate. And it goes a little bit beyond to what I can really see. I mean, maybe super trained eye, I don't know. Maybe there are people out there who are like, so well trained that they can look at these things and be able to tell you, distinguish it. But for me, I rely on a computer to tell me what's the difference, right? Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go here and put a little halation, right? And this halation I'm going to do, and I have a very little halation, by the way, guys. I'm kind of not big on this kind of halation because, I like it, but I don't want to any kind of red pea pink. I don't want this. That's kind of for me gimmicky. I'm sorry. I know it's not my style. Anyway, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to here into diffusion. And in diffusion, I'm going to go and say bloom effect. This is a little bit what I like. And you see, just gives me like that little bit kind of, softness and bloom. Yeah. Oh, I love it. That's a kind of, but, I miss that is film. That diffusion of silver halide crystals reacting to one another is really what we discovered, right? Where we basically analyzed one pixel over a period of 12 frames. We saw like, well, hang on a moment, that pixel spreads itself. It affects neighboring pixel. And it really works like that, right? It's really interesting. It's really interesting how film, has a very specific character, how it's kind of constantly like something's moving. It's a gelatin at the end of the day, right? So, it's really, really interesting. So it's not a fixed structure like digital sensor. It has this kind of, like the light bounces. And then one active crystal affects another. They bound with one another. And then the image is kind of just a little bit evolving all the time. So when I do this kind of diffusion is a little bit what I do with that. I'm helping recreate that strong contrast pixel affecting one another. Okay, and then what I'll do here is I'm gonna go here and put a little bit of grain, okay, and I'm gonna oversample my negative. I don't want my negative to be prominent because really our tests have shown that the well shot and well exposed film negative has got such a subtle grain. It's not about that, but I will actually get a little bit like into the medium territory with my print. I want my print to kind of be print, like that. Thank you very much. Also want to make sure that I'm in a 3D territory so that I have a saturation. And then definitely will enable gate weave. That's so beautiful, like, especially in this kind of subtle level, and a little flicker as well. Okay, and that kind of flicker, I'll just make a less. I don't want it to be like flickering too much, right? So I'll kind of make flicker a little bit like this. Okay, so just to show you like what is the benefit as well, if you look at now my waveform monitor, right? So look at my waveform, okay? And I'm just gonna show you what really happens now that we put the grain. So look at the color, look at it. You see, there is color in grain. Grain is full spectrum. That's really what it looks like. It's just in the past, we sampled grain against gray and there was no color. But you see now, I just allow, my emulsion to generate, that kind of beautiful grain effect, okay? So look, if you think about it, right? What I did now is I just kind of, like used texture emulation, if you want to call it like that. It's kind of, how should we call it? I'm not sure. Like, these kind of emulation effects, right? Look, if I just take these three, okay, and if I was to kind of just go and disable only them, right? You see kind of the amount of change we did to an image. It's just fascinating, right? It's just, look, so let's see. You see? It's kind of, it really adds all of these elements that are not color really. There is something happening with color, but there is just so much more to look into an image than just, applying a film light, right? It's not, we really like, are enhancing, the feel of these kind of cameras like iPhone or something like that so much more by playing with these tools. And yes, we apply a little bit distortion and things change a little bit, but you know what? Thank you very much. I love it. That's what I want. Okay, so now I'm kind of, and I say like, you know what, this is my hero. I don't need to reinvent this look for my clients. They shot it like this. That's probably really what they wanted. I can go back and see what it looks like. Look, this is what they have. So I haven't really crazy, like, wow, made them some crazy look. I just made it much more palatable. I made it look like really nice, right? I fixed too much of that warmth that we have. I fixed the skin, I love the exposure, I think it's great, I love it like this. So you know what? Let me just go and make this my reference. So I'm going to go and save this as a reference. Okay, great. So now what I do is I'm going to go and copy, and this is the fun part. Now we're coming to fun part. This used to be now the moment where I would normally go and make myself a coffee and say, okay, now I have to go through the whole movie, right? And have to go and match it. But this is now going to be different. I'm just going to go say press match. Thank you very much. Press match. Okay, now you see I need a little bit, okay, I don't need now this window for sure. And I'm going to just open it a little. Excellent. So that's kind of already done. And I'm just going to go and say, okay, press match. Great. Match. I'm going to close this one. I don't need this thing there. And you know what? I'm just going to close it a notch. There we go. I could use my controller as well. Actually, it's going to be a little faster. All right, let's carry on. Match. Beautiful. Match. 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 Excellent. So I really just go now through the whole timeline, and I'm basically using, this reference, right, that kind of gives me that overall feel, to basically create a CDLs, that will just, and these CDLs, by the way, are full float. So I don't have to change the actual CDL. I can apply change to my node before and node after. And because DaVinci works in full float and plugin is working in full float, they just offset one another losslessly. There is absolutely no need for me to basically do anything more than this. Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent. I don't need this window here. Okay, excellent. And let me go this guy as well. Boom. And I don't need this window here, right? Excellent. So that's better. So let me just go one more time. So now I have a little bit moment to just go through my grade. What I will do here is I'm gonna put this onto her, do a little track, just to make sure if she's moving. Great. And I will just warm her up a little. I want her face just to get a little bit warmed. And I just do temperature for that. Let's get this guy here. Yeah, I'll add a little bit temperature in the middle here as well. And I'm using just temperature for that. I'm going to open it up a little bit because, it needs like that. So again, you see, I'm loving this kind of, color contrast that I'm getting here between, sorry, need to warm up. That's it. Between this kind of cool light source and that, this is kind of really what helps my image, right? Okay, there we go. It's a little bit too much. So what I'll do now, instead of now me tweaking it here, what I do is I just change a little bit key output of that node, and then I fine tune it. So you see now it feels like that warm source of light comes from here. Let me see, do I need this kind of top grad on him? No, I'll leave it off. This is nice. Let me see this one. No, yeah, it's better. This one's nice. I would just a little bit bring down the shadow here, just a little bit. Excellent. That's great. Love it. Love it. This is the hero. Here I have again problem because I have this, grad on top. We don't want that. And then here I will use this window and just give her a little bit more warmth. I quite like that, kind of when we're on the kind of extreme close-ups that we have. This is great. And then here again, I'll just bring it up a little bit in the middle and I just warm it up a little. There we go. Excellent. Love it. This is copy of this grade. So I'm just going to copy it so that way I have a consistency. They are already good or good or good. Don't need this here probably. Yeah, much better. This one I probably don't need again. I know it's nicer actually because it cools his kind of head a little bit. It doesn't look all warm. This is very nice. This is very nice. This is very nice. Job done. How many minutes was that? My God, look at it. I don't know. And you know what is this? I'm on an M1 MacBook. I'm saving money for my M4 MacBook. I haven't got it yet. And I press play and I play back in real time. Now go and put your enhancers, you guys, I know you love that kind of plugin. Just go and put it and try to press play like this. Please do it and let me know how it goes on an M1. Look at it. I have lens emulation, grain emulation, 128 print emulation, look emulation. I mean, you name it. I got it all, right? I work in a 16 stops of dynamic range, JP 2, right? I have 2 layers of grain in full color. Everything. Modulation transfer function and halation. Everything running in real time on my laptop, no problem at all. I'm in HD, by the way. And I recommend you also work in HD, unless you have like a beefy computer, then you're gonna need to go a little bit higher in terms of the GPU, to get it. But you see, it looks absolutely fantastic. And and I don't, this one could be a little bit more saturated, but this is the thing now. Usually when I press play, I see things slightly differently then. And then I go like, maybe I need to do this, maybe I need to do that. But you know what? It's lovely. I have now time to tweak it. I have.
Aqui estoy. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I am able to, spend a little bit time now, tweaking it or going through it or doing something. I'm not like a strap now that because this whole process of matching and balancing, it's just worked very little. And yes, and you know what? I definitely elevated this image without, I mean, if we are to compare it to where we were, where we started, you see, look at the difference, right? Look at this. We just made it feel so much nicer, So yeah, that basically, is, I don't know, look, I'm on 40 minutes with intro. Maybe when we look back, we can understand how long it took me to do it. I want to basically now do a little Q&A with you guys. Please let me know any questions, anything. I'm opening now over to you so we can just start. Is there any chance of getting Look Designer working in Nuke? Yes, there is, Rakesh. It is working already in Nuke. So the whole Filmlab plugins are working now in Nuke as well, and in Flame, and in Baselight. So we are not really publicly releasing it yet. We have a small testing team that is working on it at the moment. And yes, so basically, and you know what? Haven't tested Houdini, but if it supports same OFX plugin like Nuke, it's gonna work, right? Bernard has a question. Please go ahead, Bernard.
So JP Log 2, what are the advantages of that rather than using the other color spaces?
Okay, so the reason why we built JP 2, or why we basically went to Josh Pines to help us, and it happened that he had it already. He was actually working already with ACES on it. So look, all of this process that you're seeing here was initiated with Alexa 35. Okay, and Alexa 35 is a camera that has the highest dynamic range of all cameras. Okay. And the dynamic range of Alexa 35 is higher than, for example, what you can put in ACES CCT. It's higher than what you can put in DaVinci Wide Gamut. It's higher than what you can put definitely in Arilog C3, which is what we were using, okay? So what we needed is we needed a log encoding space for film emulation that's going to be bigger than Alexa 35. Because, if I'm to emulate film, I need to work in log because that's how film works, right? But I need a color space that is going to be so big that it can put that camera inside and be able to take every part of that image, all the detail into it. Because right now, if it takes, let's say you take Alexa 35 and you put it, for example, in DaVinci Wide Gamut, none of that highlight, none of these kind of top 2-3 stops of highlight are really controlled by you. They just basically not, they're just, they're out there. They are above your maximum that what you can get access to with your tools. Okay. And then, so for us, there was a number one request. Can we have a dynamic range that's bigger? The second problem we had was that many of these color spaces that give us high dynamic range are made for cameras. And they basically, what they do in order to get more headroom, they bring the mid-gray down, right? So mid-gray sits, something around 200, 300 something, right? I'm not sure exactly the numbers now. However, we colorists, we like when mid-gray sits at 400 because that's where the tools are sitting. If you look at, the way, look, my pivot for contrast is at 435. The way how Live Gamma Gain in DaVinci Resolve behaves is that you want mid-gray to be around 400. The film Cineon was also so that the mid-gray was around 400. Alilog C was always around 400. And we love the way how tools behave when mid-tone is at 400, right? When mid-gray. So then basically we said, is it possible to have a high dynamic range, but without without losing that mid-gray? And that's what Josh figured out. That's the genius of Josh Pines, that he just understands both sides. He doesn't just understand cameras, right? He understands colorists as well. And he goes like, I understand why colorists need this, and we'll figure it out. Normally, every other color scientist would say, well, I need more, and I understand them. Their job is to make camera encoding work as good as possible, right? Their job is not to help you color grade it better. Their job is to get the best signal out of that camera. So they will design log in that way, and which is why log C4 is designed so that the mid-gray is so low, because Harald had to put more dynamic range and he needed somewhere space to get it. Okay, the next thing as well that is very important for us is this thing which is basically the offset. Offset was for decades was the most important tool for us to change the exposure. I know that some of you now think like, oh, I can go and change it to be linear and use gain, but this is too much work. And then that node can only do, exposure. I can do anything else with that node, right? So I don't want this. I have an offset. I want to work very fast. It's in my primary. When I use offset, I want every stop of exposure to change at the same ratio. And the only way you can do it is if you assign same code value to every stop of exposure. And this is what JPlog does. Every stop is exactly 50 points. Exactly. So when I move my offset like this is 100% identical, actually a little bit better than me working as a gain linear. And I don't have to change to gain. I can just basically, like to linear, I have everything in a single node. I work 10 times faster because I'm not switching from node to node. I'm like basically just, flying through it. And also like my shadows behave more natural when I'm using offset for exposure. So these are like just three things, that they kind of, or four things, I don't know what I mean. I said why we love it. And another thing that really was necessary, if you look at it here, we are now taking all this high-end processing and we are putting it together. So we need to preserve the detail of that processing. And we're not just generating color here. I'm generating with lens pixels that never existed. So I'm not just changing existing pixels, I'm putting into an image new pixels. And I want those pixels to be in the highest possible quality, which means highest possible dynamic range. And this is incredibly important for, let's say, diffusion of the lens, modulation transfer function. Because where is this? Where is this happening? In the highlight, in the specular highlight. So if I don't have a color space that allows me to produce, this beautiful specular highlight in high dynamic range, I don't have the quality. And that was basically, this is where everything came together. Once Josh basically put this together for us, we were like, oh my God, it started really working. And now I can actually separate the plugins and connect them because I can losslessly move from plugin to plugin, right? And that was all the advantages. I think I should make a video just about that.
Yes. Thanks, Dado.
You're welcome. Sorry, it was a long one. Bobby, is there a disadvantage to adding halation, grain, and lens slab on the clip level? Not at all, Bobby. You can do it totally like that. It's just, like I tend to leave that setting same because it's part of my look. And that way I leave it on a timeline. But if you feel like, no, I want to tweak it from clip to clip, just move it to clip level and be able to adjust it from shot to shot. Absolutely. Zero disadvantage. Zero,
if I do go back to add it on the timeline level, how do you get it to bypass, say, lower thirds or graphics? I know you can bypass color management on specific clips, but
and is a graphic baked in?
No.
No, it's not. I see, I see. So in that case, what you have to do, right? You want to then put it like this. Look, you go here on the timeline, and then in the effects, how they call it? Is it adjustment layer or what was it again? Adjustment clip.
Yeah.
Adjustment clip. Adjustment clip. All right. And you put adjustment clip like this, right? And now you apply everything instead of the timeline level to the adjustment clip.
Gotcha.
And then you put your graphics on top.
Word. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's a workaround. Rakesh, it's going to be fun to add some of these tools to Houdini. Yeah. Yes, now the post-production is waking up to these tools. Justinian, is Grain Look is now taking out the Filmlab AI? No, it's not taking out. It's not taking out. It's part of it. So if you have it, it's there. But it's because it's just when like what we don't want, Justinian, is for you to have two plugins. You understand? So basically, what we had in the past, it was like Look Designer and then Look Designer CL, and it was like that messes everybody up. Like why do I have two plugins that do exactly the same? They're just different name. So we just unify the name. So don't be alarmed because they sit in Colourlab. They just basically sit in Colourlab because if you have Colourlab, this is normally what they would be sitting. So it's just naming, and unifying that you have one plugin. So you don't have to have the same plugin twice. That was great to see you do it in 30 minutes. Thank you, Mac. Thank you. Martin says, can these tools work in DaVinci Wide Gamut? Yes, of course. Of course, Martin. Look, just what you do is like, they're my DaVinci Wide Gamut people. I love DaVinci Wide Gamut, and that's it. So let me show you. Basically, you come here and then you say, well, I can't use this IDT. You would instead of my IDTs, right? You would have to use color space transform, and then here you just say input DaVinci Wide Gamut. There we go, DaVinci Wide Gamut, and output DaVinci Wide Gamut, and then everything works. But I would recommend you that when you come to all of these effects that I put on the timeline, you use IO node, okay, to convert to DaVinci Wide Gamut. Sorry, to convert from DaVinci Wide Gamut. But look here. I can go on my IDT, I set here iPhone 15. But what I can do is I can also set DaVinci Wide Gamut. Yeah? So what you do on the timeline level, now all your timelines DaVinci Wide Gamut. On the timeline level, now you put inode DaVinci Wide Gamut to JPlog 2. You do all the Filmlab processing in that color space. As I said, it's good, it's better, it gives you more detail. And then you put an ODT at the end, because what you can do here, look, if you don't want to use our ODT, you can just click here and you say Rec 709 by RCM2. And this is going to be exactly same Rec 709 as if you're using DaVinci's color space. Or alternatively, what you can say, I want to work in scene, I'm working in scene, and I'm going to go and export again to DaVinci Wide Gamut, and then you can do everything else like you like to do, right? Then you can put color space transforms or anything else that you like, okay? So you have full flexibility in which color spaces you want to go, right? So it's totally there. Question, will JPlog 2 work with the ColorWare tools? It doesn't work at the moment, but we are going to open the license for it. We're going to use it, release it as Apache 2 license. It means other companies can license it free of charge and can integrate it into their products. So fingers crossed, maybe they integrate it. We'll work on OCIO integration. We'll work on lookup tables for JPlog 2 as well, so that you can, guys, at the moment you're limited only to the plugin because of the licensing. But as we change the licensing, you'll be able to make your own lookup tables. You'll be able to make integrate it, in other products as well, and so on and so on and so on. So we are opening it up for general adoption. Also, when the lens lab include refraction, not sure when this is happening right now. We're just improving a little bit some of the settings of the lens, like some, that kind of center that I did as a window. We're going to put it in, and then also like a little bit fixing some intensity issues there. And then we're going to start working, with color aberration and fraction. There is some collaboration already in there, by the way, but we're reducing the amount of controls. Like, if you had to see Lens Lab originally, it had like this amount of controls. So when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, what is this? What is going on? So we reduce it. We want you to have less. Less is more. You work faster when you have less. Hey, Dado, can you briefly walk me through how would you implement linear workflow with this node structure? Okay, very, very good question. So, okay, there you go. Look, you go to your IDT, so which is your inode, and let's say you have a linear file, right? What you do is you click here, you scroll all the way down, and you select ACES 2065 AP0. This is linear. This is linear, okay? And then, but you have to understand, all of this processing, all film emulations, CDLs, must be done in log. The world is log, the film is log. You cannot emulate and do anything. Color grading should be always done like this, right? So if you have a source that's linear, you must convert it into this log space, work in it, and then go back linear again. On the same thing applies if you go to ODT. So now you changed everything, and here you say instead of scene, DaVinci White Gamut, you say I'm outputting linear again. Basically, yeah. So that is the way how to do it. Is there a way to offer inode and node as a package? No. It's no. And by the way, you cannot buy Filmlab anymore on our website. If you want to have a Filmlab on our website, you have to have a Colourlab AI, and then you can buy it. You have to be professional colorist or post-production company to buy it, okay? Or you have to be member of some of the organizations that proves that you're professional, and you can then buy it. And also everybody who gets it's going to have a one-to-one induction. So we are not anymore selling Filmlab AI as a product where you can click, enter your credit card and get it. You need to go through application process. So just so you know, it's changed now. It's not anymore available to everybody. Okay, well, I suppose if you guys are here, you probably already feel professional colorists, so it doesn't exclude you. But what it does, it protects you from people who would normally have to work with you of buying that same plugin and doing it themselves. Okay, so it protects post-production businesses, it protects you professional freelancers from your clients going like, oh, my colorist got really cool tool, I'm just gonna go buy it myself, here's my credit card, and I'm never gonna go and see and work with them again. No, they have to go to professional colorists to work with them, and the reason why is because professional colorists know how to use them. This plugin is not something magical that you just put and does all these things. You need to know how to operate it. You need to know how to set it up. And basically, so this is why when you get it, you get the strict instructions and tutorials how to use it. Okay? And streams like this help you as well understand how best to use it. So this is another thing. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was useful. Give me thumbs up if you liked it. Come on, I want to know. Was I doing it for excellent? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is going to be wonderful. Like I really love the community feel and how you're coming in and like how you're responding to the developments. If you're part of the beta, please give us feedback. We really, the only way for us to understand how to develop this product further is for you to tell us what you need, So don't just, sit there and say like, oh, I have a beta, I'm not doing anything with it. Just come and tell us, hey, this didn't work. this works. I have gamma tissue. Like, you know, like when I put the sunshot, I see this, you know, like that. That is gold dust to us. The only way we can progress is with your help. And at the end of the day, we're doing it so that you can progress, right? So we need to help each other on that. So please, let's open those communication channels, you know. Help at Colourlab AI is active again. It's been monitored all the time. I'm on it as well now, much more. And I really want to, like, you know, hear from you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next Friday again. Actually, I might not sure we're doing next Friday because we're in New York. I don't think I can do it. But I'll let you know depending how the schedule is. Otherwise, the week after that. And keep an eye on your inbox. We're going to let you know that when you can go and download the new version. It's out today, so I will just send you the instructions how to do it. And on that, I wish you all wonderful weekend. Everybody enjoy. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all. Thank you. Have a great day.